Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for asking me to do this for you. I really
Absolutely.
appreciate
Yeah, absolutely. I, am one of those people that I'm on my phone all the time. And I was just looking through TikTok and sometimes you just see kind of stupid stuff on there
it. Yeah.
and dances and all that stuff. And so I was just scrolling through there and I saw your post and I was like, I was like, that is wild. Cause I personally don't know anybody that
Hmm.
had a direct involvement in 9/11. I know people who talk about their family members who were supposed to work that day or family members that live in New York City but weren't directly like part of it. And
Hmm.
so I thought it would be so cool to be able to sit down with you and have you tell your story about actually being in the North Tower during the attacks and what your life ended up being like because of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to do that. I can start from where I was that morning. Generally, people in my office building. I used to work for a firm that was called Sidley Austin Brown and Wood at the time, and now it's called Sidley Austin. And generally, the workday would start at 9:30. But I was kind of like it was my first job out of college. And so I was kind of like that eager person after the summer coming back into the city. I actually went to school in New York City too. I went to Barnard College. Um, and after graduation, I went home to Cleveland, and then I got a call that they were looking. I used to work there while I was in college, like part time. And so they called me and they said they needed a full time person. So I was excited to get back to the city. And my boss had actually left September 10th, and he's like, "It's all yours. You know what to do. You're kind of like the head legal assistant now of, jokingly, just of the public finance department." So I got really excited. So I wanted to be there early. And so I got in at probably around, I have to say around 8:43 or something like that. And I got to the elevators. And so because the building was so tall, there's an express elevator that went from 0 to 44. And then you got out of the elevators, and then there are like there are a bunch of different elevator banks. So it'll say like 45 or 46. There was an escalator that went to 45, and they'll say like 46 to 60 or something like that. And my floor was the 56th floor. So I went in that little hallway to get up to the 56th floor, and I hit the elevator button to go up. And at that time, the plane hit the building. And of course, it never occurred to me that it was a commercial jetliner going into our building. And what it felt like was an earthquake. It felt like the entire building shook and then kind of dropped. That's what it felt like. So just anything you see, like footage of an earthquake or something, that's what it felt like on the inside, being inside the building. Um, and I mean, I was scared. I think it'd be scary at any age, but I was 22 years old. I didn't have any family there. I was just like literally a small town girl. And coming to live in New York City, and I felt scared, but at the same time, I was like, I got to get back. I got to get upstairs to go to my people, because I'm sure my coworkers are, up on 56th, and my firm had like the 54th floor, 56th floor, 57th and 59th, maybe 60th, something. I can't remember which floors they had, but I was like, if I see anybody, I'd just be happy to be with my people. So I kept hitting the elevator button to go up, but it kept clicking off and on. It wasn't coming. It was just flicker because it wasn't working. Because all the plane must have hit the lines at the top. So I mean, and I'm lucky for that, because I probably in my mind was thinking like, I just want to be with my coworkers. I'll just keep trying to get up, get upstairs until I can see somebody I know. Um, but in that time, I could see probably, I think it had to have been like a 250-pound man taking his shoes off and running in the other direction to get to the stairwell. I was looking at him. I was like, if he's scared, then I probably should just follow him. And I should probably be scared. So people started panicking. when I looked out, because I don't know if you've seen the old buildings, but they're like rails that go like this up and down the Twin Towers, and they're little windows. So they're like slim windows that are going up and down the building. So as soon as I turned and I looked, I mean, you could just see paper, like tons and tons of paper flying out of the building. And I was like, this is some kind of, I've never been in an earthquake. This is what it looks like, so it's just very odd that all these papers were flying. And I get to the emergency stairwell. There's a gentleman, and the gentleman I followed inside was inside. And then when I turned, I could see ladies in high heels, like taking off their high heels, and just to be able to run. So we were in the stairwell. I didn't know anyone because, again, I never made it up to work. And so this is from the 44th floor. I'm heading down. And please feel free to stop me at any time to ask questions or anything like that. Otherwise, I can just keep rambling. And I had at that time, we obviously didn't have the smartphones or iPhones or anything like that, but I had a Motorola flip phone. So I took it out, and my mom would call me. So I started the job probably in August, like came back to New York City in August. And she would call me every day at 8:45 in my office to make sure I was sitting down in my office, and to make sure that I had made it to work. Like, her baby girl was going to be in New York City, and she definitely wanted to make sure that I was okay. So I was thinking, like, when I'm looking at my phone, oh my gosh, my mom's going to be really worried about me because I'm not sitting at my desk, and she must have called me by now. So I am trying to get a line out of the phone. It's completely nothing. There's no lines getting out of the phone, because at that time, it's just, the technology is not as good as it is today. And, the telecommunications was just, it was 2001. So everybody's, swamping the phone lines. I can't get a ringtone. Every time I would type in something, it would just click off. I don't even think it said failed. It just wouldn't even work. So, I'm heading down, and around probably the 35th floor, and things were moving pretty calmly, by the way. Like, people were pretty calm. There was like chatter behind me. Some businessmen were saying, I hope we can still make I hope this situation is over soon. We have to meet up for our 11 o'clock meeting. So people thought, nobody had really known what had happened. People thought they were going to go back to their meetings at 11 o'clock. And so it was just, and so I think that kind of conversation helped keep everybody calm. Like, nobody really thought it was this terrorist attack. So around, my memory's foggy as to which floor it was, but there were women that were getting off on the floors and just putting their hands on the emergency, like the door that goes outside from the emergency stairwell back onto the floor. They're putting their hands on the door, and they're like, oh, this floor isn't hot. They didn't smell smoke, and so they would get off on that floor. I don't know why. I think they just thought, like, hey, we were told that there was some kind of kitchen fire. And because there was a kitchen on the 45th floor, and the explosion had seemed so close to us when we were on the 44th floor, that was some kind of rumor that was spreading around that it was just a kitchen fire. So some ladies got off on the 35th floor. Then one floor below that, there was, for some reason, a locked door in the emergency stairwell. So we had to wait for someone to come up, like it was, like a custodian, to come up or come down, somebody to just open the door so we could keep heading down. And so we were waiting there for, what seemed like an eternity. Probably was more like 5 to 8 minutes. But that was precious time at that time, now that we think about it. But he didn't know what key it was, but he tried every key. Finally, that key opened the door, and the emergency stairwell it was just very strange to me, that there would even be one there. And I'm sure future plans have probably taken out that door completely. But we kept heading down. And the firefighter, he was such a special man, but I tripped down a few flights after getting out of that door. I tripped down a few, not flights, stairs, after the door was open. And he came up and he lifted me up from when I'd fallen, and he said, just try to keep moving, stay calm, move quickly. You're going to get out of here. And then in my mind, I kind of was like, well, of course I'm getting out of here. This is just a kitchen fire, that kind of thing. But obviously he had known what had happened. And I mean, there were a couple of firefighters there. They're all wearing, I mean, they probably, from what I hear, their gear was probably 110 pounds on their back. How they climbed up this, even one flight of stairs was just beyond me. It was just amazing. But they were heading up process. There were a couple burn victims brought down, and they did not look good. I mean, and it seemed like, wow, this is some kitchen fire they're talking about. Like, this seems pretty serious. And there was just a woman covered in soot, and it was just all black ash. As we kept heading down there, the electricity started going out, and the water pipes had some kind of pipe had burst. So there was water filling up in the stairwells, and there was also loose wiring. So what happens with the loose wiring? I mean, there were sparks. So what everyone was really worried about was the sparks hitting the wires. The sparks hitting the water. And what was scary about that was that the lights kept flickering on and off. And we were all holding each other's shoulders at one point because we couldn't see in the stairwell. And that was very scary, because if we were all holding each other's shoulders and these sparks are coming, by the water, we're just like a chain of, we're all going to get electrocuted. But there's really no choice. So we're just trying to think, like, what is the best case? What is the least risk here at this point? And, again, I'm not sure how the wires became exposed, or if it was must have been the cause of the attack. But it was just strange, like, to get to lower and lower into the building, how things had also started to unravel very quickly. So we were, walking through a little puddles of water, but enough to be, they started to flood. So we get out at the bottom, and at this point, because it was 8:49 when the first plane hit. At this point, it must have been, I can't remember the timing, but by the time I got out, it was an hour afterwards. So it was probably like 9:49. And as we're getting out of the building, and the thing is, it was such a, for people who were able to get into the emergency stairwell from at least where I was, it was such a calm and well-organized escape plan. As soon as we got out, there were firemen saying, go around this building, everybody and keeping everybody calm. And they were just standing there so calmly, and just guiding people out towards the back to the water, and telling people to just go that route, don't stop, keep moving. And I remember looking outside of the building. There used to be this beautiful, like a globe-looking structure. And it was like a statue type thing. It was in the middle of, right in the front of the World Trade Center. It looked like a globe or something like that. And it was completely crushed. And I had the chance to just look outside for a second, and then you could see, it was just a gruesome sight at that point. Because you could see people who had tried, who didn't make it. And I was thinking, and this in my mind the entire time, I was like, there's something they're not telling us, because this doesn't happen from some explosion in the kitchen. We finally got out to the back. I had a chance at that point. I was standing with a couple of women who were just looking up at the building, and you could just see a huge gaping hole in both buildings. Now at this point, when we were inside, you heard something, I skipped over this part, but when I was inside the building, I could hear the other one get hit. So like you could hear that noise, but still we didn't know what it was. I was like, nobody had any clue as to what was happening. And I guess that's a really good thing. And it's a great thing because it kept everybody very, very calm. because had somebody said, you know, there have been 2 commercial jetliners plowing into our buildings, I think that there would probably be a lot more chaos, a lot of people probably trampling over each other to get out of the building. Thankfully, you know, we didn't have smartphones in some like silver lining type way, because had we just Googled it, you know, it would have come up in the kind of situation we were in, and create chaos. But honors were fantastic. They never once let on as to what was going on. They got us out of harm's way very quickly. And as I started to walk north, the second building that was hit, it was the South Tower, it fell first. And so if you've seen footage of people running, I was one of those people running, along with everyone else who had gotten out of the building. So we had just gotten out. I was able to look at both, and I saw the big gaping hole in the where I came out of, the first building. And then I saw one in the second, and I was thinking, what the heck's happening here? I ran, and then, you know, ran north to get away from the building. And I had no idea why such a thing had happened. You know, it was just very odd to me. And at the time I ran into a friend of mine. We used to ride the bus in together. And it was miraculous that we just ran into each other. And then at that time I was told what had happened, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe that is what had happened to our, to the buildings. And the second one fell first. I think it only stood for 40 some minutes after it was hit, maybe not even that long, maybe around 40 minutes. Because if you look at the footage and the way the second one was hit, it was cut at an angle, and it kind of went through the lower floors than the first one that was hit. The first one went straight on into the top. And I guess had a little bit more time and stability to stay up longer than the second one, which was cut at an angle and also lower. So it just couldn't hang on as long. So finally, my dad said it was 2 hours. I think it was 3 hours. It's neither here nor there. I used a payphone to call my folks, and I finally got through. And at that point, both buildings had fallen. And this is where I feel worse for my parents, because they were and my siblings. My brother was 13 at the time. My sister was actually in her freshman college in New York, at the same college I was at. And you're just watching it at home, not knowing what to do. And at least I was inside, not knowing what was happening and having control of the situation. Like I knew I had to get out. I knew what I knew was that there was a kitchen fire, and I was just calm about it. It was only when the water started coming up from the bottom that I was like, this is very odd. You know, like these thoughts of this isn't a kitchen fire started coming into my head. Otherwise, I mean, everything was so laid out, and I had control. I felt I had control of the situation. I knew I needed to get out, whatever it was, whatever the firefighter had said, you know, just move out. So I did that, you know, and it was just so, again, it just seemed so organized. Like the people they were all very well versed. First responders were very well versed in this emergency evacuation. Despite the fact they probably never would have imagined something like this would ever happen. So I did feel terrified for my folks, because they thought I didn't make it. My dad was already making arrangements. Because at that time, I think they thought once both buildings fell that nobody had made it out. I think it was estimated the next day that 10,000 people had died. It was a horrifying number anyway, but it wasn't 10,000. I think it was closer to 2,900, but closer to 3,000. So, you know, for my folks, I mean, I think it was just they were relieved, but they also, I mean, we all went through this where we just felt like that survivor's guilt. And I felt that for a long, long time. I still do on September 11th, I still do periodically when I think about it. And I think that post really helped a lot of people from just reading the comments. I felt that it helped a lot of people, but it really helped me selfishly because I wondered about the kids who lost their parents that day. You know, I was single. I didn't have children. I have two siblings. They still had each other. My parents still had 2 kids. So for me to have survived, it was that feeling of why me, you know, like it was really difficult for me to understand because I just didn't think it was fair. And the thread of the comments was really special to me because there were children on there who are now adults who said, you know, I lost my dad. There was a woman who just posted on her TikTok. She said, and I think she's since removed it just for personal reasons, but she had posted some footage that she received that was just recently found of her father in the South Tower trying to help people down. The elevator obviously wasn't working. He was trying to help people down the stairwell. And it's his last moments. And she has that audio of it. And just to connect with her was, it really touched me because I've always wondered over the years, like you, not knowing anyone who's been at people, obviously, because I worked with folks there and I continue to work with them. After this all happened, our firm moved to the east side of Midtown, after this all happened. So I was lucky to still have a job and have a place to work. But you know, it was after I moved from New York, I came back to Cleveland and went to law school and married my husband, and we had kids, and I moved to New York again, and always thought to connect with or try to connect with folks, but you know, life happens, and this really was nice for me because, you know, I've thought about these people who I don't know, but hoped that they were okay, and I think it was really good. I feel like those people have also reached out a bit and wanted to hear more, and you know, hoped that maybe the firefighter was probably, you know, somebody that they knew, and I hope so too. I mean, it's just so hard to tell who that person was because at the time I didn't know what was happening, and with all the chaos once you got out, you know, and there's no way he would have made it out. He was heading upstairs. It's hard. There's a lot of details there. And you find out the ladder. There were so many different departments in that building. And I think it would be hard to determine which firefighter was in which stairwell at the time. And then there were multiple with the firefighter that had helped me. So it's one that is difficult, I think, to identify, but he'll always have a special place in my heart.
And when you talk about in your post about him helping you and then you never seeing him again and wishing he knew that he had given you a second chance and all the things that you've accomplished in your life. And I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about, you know, your daughters and your husband and what you would want him to see now.
Yeah. Just to have given me that second chance. Just to give me a second chance at life. You know, I don't take a day for granted. I'm very thankful for each new day I've been given. I try to use it to my fullest. We celebrate my birthday on September 11th. You know, my birthday's June 9th, you know, but it's just, I have 2. And it's something that that's just something my dad likes to really do, and just to commemorate that day because it really is another chance at life. And I would love for him to see that because of him, I stayed calm. Because of him, I was able to get out. Because of him, I've had a really happy life. And that's where the guilt starts coming in, is because, he probably had a family and I had children, and, and never got to see them again. And it's one of those things that he's really a hero, and really because of him, he didn't just save me, he saved thousands of people. And I truly hope that all families know that. I think that probably gives them comfort, that their husbands and wives or their brothers or sisters were able to save all of these people and make it less as big of a tragedy as it is. It could have been more so without their help, and their heroism. So, I think that it's something that I think it's not even just like successes in life. It's just the happiness in life. I've recently told my 11-year-old about it. I wasn't sure when it was a good time to do that. And then last year at school, they started talking about it. And I thought, maybe since she already knows what it is now, and I didn't tell her, I might as well tell her what that day means. So I think I would really just want him to know how happy I've tried to be because of that. And I've tried to definitely make each day count. And I know that I am very lucky. And that, I hope obviously that his family knows that, how much joy he's probably given to me. Obviously, I have got to move on and go to law school and meet my husband and go on trips and have a great family. And, it's something that a lot of parents can't do because of what's happened. And the after effects of it are very, very severe. It's something I think about all the time. But in a space that's in a place, it comes from a good place. There was a time when I wasn't able to have this conversation with you. But it's things like that post and hearing people's stories. And that's something I have not been able to do before, social media. I haven't been able to connect with so many people like that. And I think that, having that outlet has been very helpful. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And when you think about your girls being twins, and I know you refer to them in your post as your twin towers, is that something that do you talk about that openly, like with other people, about them being twins and that carrying some sort of impact?
You know what? You raised a really good point. I don't talk about that with other people. And I feel like also TikTok is a place where, you feel that freedom to kind of, go outside the lines a little bit, right? Like you go outside of your comfort zone. At TikTok, it's something that's totally different from Instagram or Facebook. And you just feel a little bit, I guess, a little bit more laid back, a little bit more comfortable. You're with a group of people who, are a bit more open-minded than you'd find, or less, free to be themselves, I would say. And so I've never referred to them as that, if that answers your question. I've never referred to them as like the Twin Towers in Instagram or Facebook or even with friends. I don't feel that they would judge me. I just feel like they'd be like, that woman's weird, or that's interesting, or like, and the word like, just, it's just, to me, it's just like saying, I just think, that's a little strange for them. And I don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable. That's the other thing. Like, I'm I'm not worried about that so much, but I don't want to bring up something where someone's going to just be like, oh, now this lady made it awkward, you know? And I just felt because it was a trend that was happening, and it was one that I don't really do too many trendy things. I'm a mom. I do silly stuff, yes. But it was one thing that I just jumped on because it meant so much to me, and I think about that day often. So I thought, hey, this is a really good time to commemorate that. And I'm not sure if you noticed in the photo of the twins, of my girls, that they're standing in, and it was complete coincidence, but they were standing like the towers are positioned. The older one was in the front, and then the younger one was in the back, but they were exactly the same as how the towers were positioned. And so when I looked at the photo, when I had taken it, it didn't occur to me. And I did do a post on Facebook and on Instagram on September 11th. This was several years ago, where I put the picture, I actually have it right here, where I put this picture right next to my twins. I never referred to them as the Twin Towers. I just said, you know, and my own twins were born on such and such date. And then when I looked at both photos, I was like, oh my gosh, they're actually, and I have tons of pictures of the twins, and I just decided to pick that one. But when I was looking at them side by side, I realized that, they were standing the same way. So it was just kind of cute. And so when I was looking at it again and I was posting on TikTok, I was thinking, you know, they're Twin Towers. And yes, I think it's odd. Do I refer to them as that? No. In conversation, no. I just felt, and I hesitated. And so I'm glad you brought that up. I did hesitate when I put it down, when I typed the text in there. I was like, I'm not sure how people are going to take it. And then I said, that doesn't matter. You know, like, it doesn't matter. TikTok always says, like, it doesn't matter. You know, like, you should just post what comes to your mind. It touches somebody in some way. You should just do what you want. So I took that to heart, and I took the liberty to do that. So that's a very good question. The answer is no, I don't refer to them when I talk to other people about it. But the answer is yes. Do I think about them that way? Yes. I do think of the irony of the situation. In fact, they were born on 7/7. So that's like July 7th. That is another, like, same numbers, that kind of thing. But yes, they are truly a blessing. I do think of how serendipitous that was. And this was to write that out and to actually take what was in my head that I keep to myself and put it in a text on a post like that it was hard for me, but I'm glad I did it. It was one of those things that I'd wanted to say. I referred to them to my, you know, like, it was one of those things that was an inside kind of thing for me. But now it's out there. So.
Well, I think it's really interesting in your case that you have, being a survivor, you saw obviously people that did not make it. Maybe you didn't directly interact with them, but you were among people that didn't make it. So to have that point of view of, based on me being inside the situation, I would want the families of those people to know, like, how hard the rescue team was trying their best, and it wasn't like I'd want them to know that, you know, they were trying to keep us calm and they were doing their best. And like you said, dealing with a lot of that guilt of why me. But there's also people that don't have any connection to 9/11 at all, but they just learned about it in school, like your daughters.
Yeah.
And so based on how that situation changed how you approach life, what would you want other people to know about the lessons that you've learned from that experience that they don't teach you in school?
Yeah. Is really just to find happiness in the life of, to never take a day for granted, to never leave the house angry, to always say you love before they leave the house, because you just don't know. You don't know. Life is just so short. And that also was a reason why I put Twin Towers. Like, that's how I felt. And I thought, why not actually give this tribute to this man that really saved my life, and now I have this, so it was like having my towers back. And I never took a day for granted that I worked there. I loved it. So I would the message that I would just send is to just hold your loved ones really tight, is to always, try to be happy each day. Life is hard, and life is hard now. I mean, it's hard with the quarantine. It's hard with what we're going through. We've been, but I actually saw this, another TikTok, and I can't remember this gentleman's name, but I did like it. And I thought it was such a good message. And he came out dancing, and his message was, you've survived 100% of your worst days. And that's so true. It's so true. And it's one of those things where you just push ahead, like you try to, there are always going to be obstacles, there are always going to be hurdles, but you really just realize that this is a very short life, and the best thing to do is just be happy and try and just love and just each other, because this can be taken away so quickly. And so I think that that's really the message, is that we're all very strong. We have all survived our worst days. But whether we believe it or not, we have to give ourselves more credit than what we give ourselves, because we're capable of it. And, it was a time, that was a time when we were really unified. And there was somebody on TikTok commented that on that post, like, look at how unified we were at that time, and can we get back to that time that it was like that? And everybody, we all had our views. There were obviously conservatives, there were all liberals, there were, but everyone felt like we were together as a nation at that time. And yes, of course, there was a lot of anti-Islam feelings at that time, but we had a president that was against that and vocalized that. And so, obviously I'm not going to get political, but it was just that time period where it just felt more unified than how we are now. And I think that getting back to that love, and as cheesy as that sounds, like, I think that that's the best way we're all going to be able to get through this, and just to be kind. I think that that's really the message, is really to be kind to one another, because you never know. I mean, it's just that day is just a reminder of how short our lives are and how good we just need to be to each other, because it's short.
Thank you so much. And I think, coming from somebody who, as I've learned about that situation, I've put an image in my own head of, what if I was there? Like, I wonder what that would have been like. I can only imagine, like, what it was like for people that were actually there. And so I know that it's something that's really difficult to talk about. No matter how much time passes, it's still a difficult thing to talk about. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share that with me. And I think everybody will learn a lot from it.
Good. Yeah. And I'd love to see, is this a project you're doing for
this is just going to go on my YouTube channel for my journalism work.
Yeah, that's so great. I'm really happy to help out. And if you have any follow-up questions, I'm here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And best of luck to you.
You too.
All right.
I wish you and your family well through all these times. So
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Take care, Alex.
Take care. Nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too.